Broadcasting live from beautiful Burbank, California, this is the Napzok Files. I'm your host, Ken Napzok, and we are recording this one live today on YouTube and releasing it later on the podcast feed. So you might be watching it live, you might be seeing it later. But now we have got a fun show planned, a returning guest. Please welcome back to the Napzok Files, straight from the frozen, warm tundra of Wisconsin, Josh Tapia, JTE. What's up, man?
Good. It's a little bit warmer here. This is what you would consider this cold in LA, but for here it's warm. If I don't have to go out with a jacket on, it's a win. It is a win.
It's a win. It's a win indeed. Yeah, it's been unseasonably cold out here. Well, I mean, I don't know. It's the spring. We get spring rain, but a lot of things have changed recently. We're inside. We're here to go, and this is going to be fun. JT is returning. This is you guys. If you're watching live on YouTube, you might have some questions. Please ask them. Do what you got to do to get involved in the conversation. But really, this is just a live recording of my podcast. You're watching me record the Napzok Files because what happened yesterday, I tweeted out about, I just said nothing big, just covered California insurance issues, tax form problems, all these kind of stupid adult things. 4 hours on the phone got me to nowhere. Today, thought I got somewhere, didn't get, long story short, I couldn't record a podcast. And I was like, what do I do? You know what I want? You know who I want to talk to? I haven't talked to him in a while. I miss him dearly, but he's doing great out there. And that's you, JTE, Josh Tapia. I wanted to catch up with you, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good. And people are probably looking at my background like, what is happening? If I was being kidnapped and I was reading from this room, I would believe it. I got green screen here, and I have this fake wallpaper, which looks like brick, which is kind of doing the job, but it's a half-assed job, as you can see. But yeah, overall, my decorating skills are not the best, but I'm working on it.
You are, you're doing a great job, man. You have this an industrial kind of feel there. And I got to start with the headline. We got some nice people checking. We got Zach Anderson checking in. He said it's almost 80 yesterday. He's out there in the greater Wisconsin region as well. So you got a friend indeed out there.
I didn't get that one. I got close. I got 70.
Yep.
Didn't get
70. Steven Escalante's here too. How you guys doing? So I want to start with this, JT, because it's been a while since you've been on. You and I, we talk sports a lot together. We're sports fans and big baseball guys. Football is your life. So with what's going on, we got the COVID-19 situation that's changed in the sports world. So I want to talk about that first.
Yeah.
And then I want to talk about some, well, not necessarily fun for you as a sports fan. Where are you at right now with sports being on hold? How are you coping?
It sucks. When I left LA and I was like, I'm not working full time at the moment, I was like, I'm going to really dive back into sports more than I have in the past few years. Like, I was really looking forward to the NBA playoffs. I watched more of the NBA this past season than I have in the last several years. Like, for me, I would always, catch up and keep up with certain games. And then when the playoffs came, I would really try to make sure I got as many games as I could. But with my open schedule, I was like, I am going to eat these playoffs. I'm going to be there for every game. And then this happened, and it was just like kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, the NBA is one of those things where they still have like a few weeks in the playoffs, so they don't have to make up a whole season. Whereas the MLB, it sounds like there's a good chance that just might not come back, or they'll do it without fans because they have a whole season to play. And then football, like, they're talking about that might be okay because we're talking about September. Hopefully by then this will, we'll be in a better situation. So for me, football, I'm hoping it's going to come out on time. Baseball, I don't know what's going to happen with that. I'm crossing my fingers, we get like a shortened version of the rest of the season. And I think they talked about if the playoffs did have the NBA, it would be much less games. It wouldn't be best of 7. It might be like best of 3 or 5. But I'm just holding out hope we get something because the NBA season was really good. It had a lot of good teams and good storylines.
I hadn't even really thought about the NBA connection. Yeah, as a baseball fan, I was looking forward to it. And we all get the realities of the situation. This isn't that kind of conversation. But yeah, just there are some big, I was talking on John Roca's show last night. There's some realities of the business of it when you not just lose the money, but service time, contracts, stats, where that stands up with the history of a lot of things. NBA just having to press pause mid-season, NHL as well, like that. Yeah, it's beyond just us as fans going, ooh, more. It factors into the sports itself and the business of it too. So yeah, that's tough, man. I didn't think about the NBA.
Yeah, the funny thing is with the MLB, again, if they take the whole season off, you just don't have to worry about the stats for that season. You don't have to worry about who's the champion for that season. The NBA, if say your team was the Clippers or the Lakers or even Utah or the Celtics, your team was in Milwaukee especially was on a path of having one of the best seasons they ever had. You were looking forward to the playoffs. You built all this momentum, and then it just goes away. So it feels like it almost will hurt less if it's the MLB because they just took a year off. Let's just pretend they went on strike for a year. Whereas you stop towards the end of your season. Imagine watching the whole NFL season, and then right before Wild Card Weekend, everything stopped. And you're just like, no. I feel like you're just so much more invested in the storylines that are going that season, which just affects me more, I feel like. So, it's sad as someone, but again, at the end of the day, I get why it's happening.
Yeah, we totally get with that. With the stuff kind of talk that's been going around about Major League Baseball, maybe sending all the teams to like one location in Arizona, sequestering the teams in hotels and kind of playing out the season or the start of the season in front of empty stadiums or, other players in the crowds 6 feet apart, whatever it is, which again, I understand they're talking about everything. I've even heard a report of them going to Korea where things are a little bit better, something playing baseball out there.
Really?
Yeah, and again, these are all the stuff being talked about. If this stretches on, I'm no medical expert here, but if this does stretch on and the NFL is affected, are you one of those guys who's like, no, wait till you can play in front of the fans, or just give me an empty stadium and the Patriots and Dolphins and let's go?
No, either way. I think people want to watch sports. The fan aspect not being there is probably weirder for the actual players. I think playing in that silence is probably gonna be harder for them. You talk about momentum of a home game when the crowd is behind you and you just feel the energy in the room. That's gonna hurt the game a little bit. But at the end of the day, I'd rather have in the books a champion for that year. Let a player finish with his numbers. I mean, this doesn't have to do with us, but like. Players have certain bonuses they can hit if they hit certain numbers. Like a lot of players are going to be losing out on money just because they're not able to play or put the minutes in.
Yeah, and watching. I know you're not necessarily a huge wrestling guy, but like watching WrestleMania and watching it, how that played out in front of people, it was something that I felt maybe they had to do business wise and storyline wise. But yeah, it was totally weird to watch. So I think I'd be okay with baseball. Football would be tough too. But yeah, you feed off that as a performer, as an athlete.
Absolutely. And it does, that energy you feel the audience comes through the TV. Like, when you watch, especially in the playoffs. But I will say that wrestling thing was interesting. I kind of liked it because I did watch some clips because it was just so weird. But it actually made them be a little more creative. They had to like create almost like a scene. Yeah. And they got interesting with the lighting. Some of the lighting was they just put a big light in the back and were blasting over a building. So like I thought it was kind of interesting how they did some of the more cinematic angles of the wrestling. But at the same time, wrestling really relies on the crowd. So it definitely was missing.
All right, so the big question, and Zach Anderson had this there. So you are a diehard Patriot fan, Red Sox fan, just New England sports guy. That's where you kind of spent your childhood years and your formative years. Zach Anderson, this is great question. Any Packer fans tried throwing you out of the great state of Wisconsin? As I see you in your Patriots garb there, you running any Packer?
Yeah, I got a lot of hate, but it's respectful. Here's the difference. Maybe 10 years ago they'd be like, "Oh, I hate the Patriots."
Right.
People still hate the Patriots, but especially when it comes to Tom Brady, after a certain amount of time, you hate somebody, but at some point you earn a respect. Brady, I think, is considered by most to be the greatest of all time. So there's been a few instances where I've been walking around. I was waiting at a restaurant, and a kid turned around, and his family was all wearing Green Bay gear, but the kid was a Patriots fan. And the mother pointed out that I was wearing this exact sweatshirt. And I told the kid, I said, there's only one number 12. It ain't Rodgers. It's Brady. And the rest of his family were like, boo. But the kid loved it. And so, yeah, that's my number one line when people bring up Aaron Rodgers to me or the Green Bay Packers. I'm like, listen, I grew up in New England. He's the GOAT. Rodgers, he's a great player. There's no doubt about Rodgers being a great player, but he hasn't had nearly the accomplishments of Tom. So that's the big debate. Like, it's not so much Patriots. It's
Yeah.
how much they love the number 12 being Aaron Rodgers, when in fact, number 12, when you think about it, the first person you think about, TB12, Tom Brady.
Sure. Not Joe Ferguson back with the Buccaneers. Zach Anderson says, "How dare you, sir? How dare you, sir?" All right, so let's talk some sports here. At some point, you Patriots fans had to realize Tom Brady was not going to be your quarterback, whether he retires or moves on. You didn't want to think about the day. He's gone well beyond, playing well beyond his age. I'm sure he's taken some magical potions or whatever. But look, I'm a Dolphin fan. I love Marino. I begrudgingly respect Brady. I get it. I begrudgingly respect Belichick and his torn hoodie. But now Brady's gone on to Tampa Bay. Where are you? This is counseling sessions for you needed.
When you were talking about those situations, I really thought it would be he retired a Patriot. Yeah. And that's when I thought I would have to move on. That's when I kind of sold myself. Like when he does decide to retire, I'll say goodbye. It'll be this huge celebration. Be kind of like Kobe's last year as a Laker. It was basically a huge celebration for a whole year. So I figured, all right, if Brady said this is my last year, I'm just going to celebrate Brady in a Patriots uniform. It was going to be magical. It was going to be great. I did not think throughout the whole free agency that he was actually going to leave. So when it happened, I was shocked. I just, when it came down, when like you heard that the Raiders moved on, some of the other teams that were interested in him, like Tennessee, were moved on. I was like, who's he going to go to Tampa? And then it came out, and I was like, but then looking back, I kind of get it. They have a lot of weapons. They have two of the best wide receivers. They have a top 5 defense, I believe. So I get why he would do it. What I didn't know, what I think a lot of people didn't know that we've learned since then, is that Brady really just wanted to try something different. I think 20 years with the Patriots, he really was just itching for something new. I don't think it was him arguing with Belichick. He loves Kraft. I don't really think it had anything to do with the Patriots disrespecting him. Again, there might have been times in the past when, Garoppolo was there, and there might have been some behind the scenes, I don't want to leave yet kind of stuff. Maybe they didn't show enough money. But at the end of the day, I do believe Brady just wanted to do something different. He wanted to try another team out. But then I saw a clip in 2017 where he was saying he wanted to end his career as a Patriot. So I'm like, what happened in 2017? So then something had to go differently in his mind. And again, I have no idea. No one will really know except for Tom Brady and some of the guys that work in that Patriot organization.
And Will McLean in chat says going to Tampa, or as I call it, Cody Hall's sweet revenge. Cody Hall's there. And look, here's the thing.
Cody Hall. As soon as I found out.
I was expecting if Brady was moving on L.A., Vegas with the Raiders, or something big like that. Tampa Bay is one of those choices that might seem weird and service, but you're providing some good football answers to do. Mm-hmm. And so taking your passion for the Patriots and Brady out of the equation here, just from as a football fan, is this going to be Peyton in Denver, or is it going to be maybe Montana and Kansas City where it's the end of the rope, or do you think he's got a year or two left to really kind of make a difference?
Well, I think with Peyton Manning, he was coming off that neck surgery, and just you saw a different player. I feel like a lot of times you saw a different player playing with Denver. Denver's defense carried that team. It was never like Manning's going to take this team to Super Bowl. They just need Manning to keep the ship on the right path. Right. I feel like Brady, it's hard because I watched every single Patriot game last year. He could still make deep throws. There were times where his accuracy was a little bit off, but it's hard to know if that's because the receivers weren't doing the right routes. Look at Edelman had, I think, one of his best seasons last year because that's the only person Brady trusted. He's the only person he felt like he could throw the ball to. He knew would be in his spot where it's supposed to be. The communication with the younger receivers just was never there. So I'm really interested to see with these Tampa Bay Buccaneer players who have two of the best receivers in the game. Mike Evans, I think, is amazing. He's a human highlight reel. I watch him and I'm like, oh my God, Brady's going to have a field day. It's going to feel like when he had Randy Moss, or it's going to feel a little bit like that 1 week when he had Antonio Brown and he was like, I love this new toy. So for me, I really think Brady has a lot more left in the tank than Peyton Manning did. Right. Joe Montana in Kansas City, I was so young, I don't remember that as well. But I do remember, Brett Favre in Minnesota. And Favre and Brady are very different players. But I do think Brady has a lot left. I think he has, in these next 2-3 years, he could easily take Tampa Bay to the Super Bowl. But football is a team sport, man. Like Brady's there, but everything else needs to work around him. And now having Belichick, he might feel that a little bit.
Yeah, it's fun for me as a sports fan too, who's been around both, all sports. You have the veteran going to that one last team that's a weird ending. Jordan and the Wizards comes to mind, right? But in baseball, you see it a lot. But football, it's a little different because it's a compact career, right? It's a lot of times it happens where you feel like, oh, Emmitt Smith's a Cardinal. He'll probably rush for 1,000 yards, and you forget that he's starting to age out. With Brady, and I'm glad, I love to talk to you, sports JT, with you're able to put your passions aside for your team. Like, it's going to be tremendously interesting to watch Brady in Tampa Bay, because I would have had no lack of confidence with him with the Patriots this year. I would have been like, oh, he's going to do what he did. And I think he might do it.
I think Brady has the easier path of showing what he could do without Belichick than what Belichick has showing what he could do without Brady. Right. Because the quarterback, I think most will agree, is the most important player on any football team. The defense has to be great too, but if you have a great quarterback, he's the general. He is putting all the pieces in place, and I think that's what Manning was one of the best at doing. Football was a chess game. He knew how to put every player. He knew where to put every player to be the most successful, and I think Brady's really good at that too. Yeah. But Belichick, you got Stidham, who came in, I think, 1 week last year because the Patriots were killing some team, and he threw a pick six within like a couple plays, and Brady immediately got taken right off the bench, was like, get back in there. This guy just threw a huge interception. So for me, Belichick's going to have a harder time. He has a lot of players left. Van Noy, Jamie Collins, a lot of players were just like on the defensive side, and role players have jumped ship. The captain is left. Other sailors have jumped the ship. So he has a little bit of a rebuild going on, but it's not a full rebuild. I feel like it's filling the holes with different players. He's always been pretty good at trades and picking up veteran contracts. He hasn't been great in the draft when it comes to offensive players. Yeah. So to me, as a Patriots fan, I am pretty excited to see what he's actually going to be able to do with what he has. I think this is a good test for Belichick to say, hey, let's see what I could do without my golden boy, Tom Brady. Whereas Tom Brady is going into a top offense whose biggest flaw was their quarterback, who threw 30 picks and 30 touchdowns, and they have a great defense. So I think Brady's going to a much better situation and has a better recipe for success. Patriots, it's gonna be weird, honestly.
It's gonna be weird. When is the JT football podcast coming? When's that going?
I know. I would love. I should start doing some more. I would love to do more sports podcasts. Everyone grabs me for movies. I love sports. I'm watching a lot of them. Feel free to grab me for sports. I mean, I will say my MLB is not. I don't keep up with it as much as I used to, but anything overall, I'm pretty good.
Well, we got Steven Escalante says we're going to see Brady versus Drew Brees twice this year. It's going to be exciting. Well, in terms of that, I'll be talking about it more, but I am launching the baseball podcast feed, Box Score Heroes. So definitely we'll have you on there. We'll have you on talking your baseball memories. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So I do want to talk about the what's going on in the situation. Talking about movies, a movies fan. You're more than anyone I know, and I know a lot of people love going to the movies. A lot of my friends do, but the act of actually going to a movie and seeing a movie, and going to the theater and experiencing it, and you sign up for memberships is something that's really important to your life. With what's going on with the COVID-19 kind of lockdowns, we've seen the industry already just have to change, but also the industry was, I think, in the process of changing. I'm curious to get your thoughts on movies going forward, what you miss, what you're looking forward to if it comes back, and if it's just going to be blockbusters and that's all we see in the theaters. What are you doing? What are you, JTE movie fan, doing right now?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I read some of these articles and it sounds like the doomsday for movie theaters. And I don't know if I'm just a romantic at heart, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think once this all ends and people are comfortable again to go to movie theaters, I think that communal experience is so unlike anything you could really get. I can't afford a Lakers ticket, but I can afford the newest sports movie ticket for $20 and be able to be in an audience and have that reaction. Now, I've been on Twitter today in the last couple of days, and there's been a lot of great videos of the Avengers Endgame where people recorded the audience reactions. And even Kevin Feige tweeted about it, saying how a magical moment. Like those are moments I will never forget. I'll never forget the first time I saw Jurassic Park and that T-Rex tore down the fence and the goat landed on the car. I'll never forget when I was in vacation in Florida and I saw Independence Day with my family. Like, to me, they are these. Whenever I walk into a movie, I'm honestly, a lot of times there are movies I'm thinking to myself, oh, I could have watched that at home. I could have rented that, or I could have watched it on Netflix. But for me, it's a few times a year when you see something that transcends your expectations, and you're just, when the movie is over, you've experienced something where I don't feel like it's hard. It's really hard to replicate that at home because you have your phone, you go grab a drink out of the fridge. I've watched the movie Rocky hundreds of times throughout my life. Okay. I grew up watching on VHS. I grew up watching on HBO cable. When DVDs came out, I finally got to watch them on DVD. But the first time I got to go see it in the theater, when they had a special screening, it felt like I saw it for the first time. It was like I was 100% locked in, even though I've seen that movie 100 times by that time. By that point, when I think I was a teenager, I think I saw it in the theater when I was around 18 finally. The old theater in my old neighborhood was just playing like classics. They had like King Kong, the original. And then one weekend I drove by and they had Rocky. And I remember walking out of the theater and be like, I know this movie. I know every scene that's going to happen. But sitting in that theater, watching it in the theater, I just felt like I got something more out of it that I never got out of it all the times I watched it with my friends or VHS. So for me, there's still something about a theater experience that just can't be duplicated anywhere else. So for me, I do think it's going to live on. Maybe it'll be a little bit more limited. Maybe it'll be more of, I don't know. But then these Star Wars movies come out, these Avengers Endgame movies come out, and they make $2 billion worldwide. That's never going to go away. So I feel good knowing it's always going to be there. And I don't think we're going to eventually see the end of cinema ever.
Yeah, I can't see it ending just on the big game pictures. As a Star Wars fan, I'm going to always want to see, if they release a movie, I'm going to want to see in the movie. Watching something on Disney Plus as a TV show designed to be TV shows, a lot different. We all have great technology generally at home, better than we did, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago to watch things at home. So that's a different thing. But even like, what's your thoughts on like, even like the independent movies, the smaller movies, you still experience this, that, you're talking about goats and dinosaurs, but you love the act of actually going to support a movie in theaters.
Yeah, and I think remember, it's not like the old days where they wanted to ship out a print of Pulp Fiction. They had to create an actual Kodak print. It got mailed to them. They had to feed it through a thing. Nowadays, it comes in a digital code that you put a USB into a projector. So it doesn't really cost the studio a lot of money to put a film like Parasite in the theaters. It's the campaign ads that they spend to get you to go to see the movie that really becomes kind of the cost part of it. So I think as long as the movies are still open and the blockbusters are still there, theaters know that there are people that want to go see movies like Parasite and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that aren't these big budget films, and even smaller films that I think it doesn't cost them a lot to throw them in the theaters. So I don't think we're going to lose that completely. I do think some smaller films will go to Netflix or Amazon Prime a little bit quicker, and they'll forego the theater. But I think anytime a movie has a chance at winning an Oscar, if it is a movie that has any chance of winning some awards, they're going to want to get it into actual cinema, because I'm hoping the creators are hoping for that. Because I couldn't imagine making a movie and not wanting it to be in a cinema. I get it if Netflix is paying you more, but even if it's a limited, and what I like about limited releases, it shows you if it does good in a few theaters, they have a slow rollout. Slowly it'll make its way to other theaters. And I think that's a great model. You could do stuff like that with smaller films. If it doesn't do well in the first 2 weeks, go ahead, throw it on Netflix or Amazon. But if the audience is there and wants to come out and see it, why not?
You brought up something that's really interesting to me. Again, if you made a movie and Netflix comes in with a great distribution deal, and you're gonna go that way too. But just that childlike dream to see a movie you made in theaters, or your name on the screen as a screenwriter, director, producer, actor, whatever. That's something that's pretty powerful and drives a lot of people into the pursuit of that. So to see that on even again, I think this is a conversation we'd be having outside of the virus. The virus kind of put the situation. AMC, you know, I picked the wrong month to buy AMC stock, all that kind of stuff. But you know what I mean? Like that's part of the dream of making this stuff, and to see that change, that's a big shift. That's a big shift.
I love when the creators get behind that aspect. Christopher Nolan is all about the theatrical experience, and I think Tarantino's like that also. I mean, he bought the New Beverly when it almost closed in Hollywood. I think it's a responsibility of not just people going out and seeing these movies, but I think it's the responsibility of the creators for pushing their films to actually go into the cinema and be seen in the way I think we all dreamed of seeing it growing up. Now, will some of those dreams die as digital age takes over? Will those people like Nolan not exist as much? Probably, but as long as there's a couple of them out there fighting for the cinematic experience. Netflix is a curious thing for me. Like, I made sure to go out and see The Irishman in theaters. Okay. I found a theater out here, and I was like, I'm going to go see this. I don't care if it's 3.5 hours long. I want to make sure I see this in a cinema. So, like, for me and other people out there who are really into film and the movie-going experience, I think they will go out of their way to do that. I saw the movie Six Underground, which was Michael Bay's newest film. And what is a little bit sad to me, some people hate that movie. I thought it was a Michael Bay times 100 on, Monster Energy. It was just pure Michael Bay.
Yeah.
And as I sat and watched it on my TV, I couldn't help but think to myself, I kind of wish I saw this in the theater with an IMAX screen, with a surround sound. I want my chair to be rattling. Like, even though it might not be a good movie, there's no doubt Michael Bay made a movie that was supposed to be displayed on the biggest screen with the best surround sound possible. And it was a little like, I feel like I didn't get the full experience watching it on my couch with my sound bar, which has decent sound, but it just isn't the same. Especially, you hate Michael Bay or not, it's a very bombastic filmmaking style. Right. And when you lose that bombastic sound system and screen, I think you lose a little something that the director brings to the table.
I think of a joke that was made on Portlandia with Carrie Brownstein and Fred Armisen, both musicians and recording artists and everything. And there was just a little passing by joke of music was made to be listened to on a MacBook. Of just like, you're right. It was not initially. The bigger the sound, the bigger the feel. You're missing a lot of things the creators put in there. And I love that streaming will give voices and opportunities. To give opportunities to voices and creators and directors and writers out there that they might not otherwise have. I think that's pretty valuable. And we do watch most of our stuff at home. I just exist because I'm a person, as doesn't go to the theaters much anymore, doesn't watch the movies, waits for the big ones or what I'm interested in. But I know you, and I'm thinking of Alex Backus of Black Series Rebels and my friend Joseph Scribshaw, ForceCenter. Like, they enjoy the whole process of going to the movies and celebrating their passions for films. And I know you're one of the leaders of that. So a good discussion to have with you. Do you have are you building a home theater just in case there's no theaters? Are you going to build yourself like a big stadium theater?
I mean, I have a projector and I have a projector screen, but the place I'm at right now is not big enough for it. And I do miss it. I know this, when I do look to buy a house, I will 100% be looking for a basement where I could build my own movie theater. And I'll spare no expense. The rest of the house might look like a cabin that was abandoned for 100 years. But once you make your way to the basement and you make your way to my movie theater room, it's going to be amazing. I can't wait for that day.
I love that. Hey, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about something that you and I were both very key and helping build in various ways. You much more than me, but the movie trivia schmodown. And I know it's hard for you to compete remotely, but hey, now we're all remote. There was a question up here in the chat that I thought was interesting because a lot of times this might be around some of your particular set of skills here. This question: what is your stance on requiring correct spelling in the schmodown? Another case-by-case ruling had left a mess in a recent match here, and I was announcing some of it. Jokes aside, you're like me. I can know the name in my head and I misspell it a lot, especially in a pinch. What do you feel about it as the schmodown moves from a fun competition to this kind of more serious sport? And you and I are both on the sidelines. Do you think spelling should count in that first round? Give me your hot take.
I really don't think it should to a certain degree. Like, I think if you know the actor, but you don't know the exact pronunciation of their name or how to spell it, some people, I mean, not all names are Jack or Tom Cruise. There are some difficult names out there, but you know who the person is. I think if you, there should almost be like a thing where, like, listen, maybe that's like a challenge, but instead of him going first, let me go first. Let me tell you who the actress is, and I will show my card to show that I knew who it was. I just couldn't spell correctly. Yeah. I guess the only time it might be harder is when it comes to the title of a film.
Yeah.
But it really, I think it has to be a judging. Like, if it is soup, you have to judge how off it is. If it's to a point where if you could see that they were trying to spell it the best as they could, and they still, for the most part, got the title, then I think it's fine. But like, if you're trying to spell the thing and you write the creature or the things, then there's certain room. It really is hard because there's not one example. It really comes down to, I think, case by case subject. Yeah. But there have been times where I'm like, come on, we both know I know who this is. I don't know. I didn't remember. It's hard enough to memorize every actor who stars in the movie. Yeah. I can't remember how to spell every single one of their names correctly.
Yeah, one of the Schmodown behind the scenes characters there, PJ Campbell, doing a lot of writing, says, actually, don't disagree with this. I stand behind this idea. I get the Schmodowns changing. This isn't the place to have the big Schmodown conversation. Go listen to Schmodown Backstage and the Rundown, all these places. I'm not actively involved in it as much. I know you aren't as much either, JT, but like, I get the game and the show. I used to think of it as a show. A lot of people think of it as a game. Has evolved, as it should. But I always thought the writing down on the boards in the first round was just to confirm that you weren't stealing the answer. Yeah. That it's spelling here or there. I understand, like the famous one of Lena Headey versus Lena Headley. That's not the right name. That's wrong. When it was said, when it was vocalized, but that was always a backup. You know, I don't know. Could be just you and me.
I guess the pronunciation is a whole nother beast. Like, if they pronounce it wrong, like if I say Idris Elba or if I say Idris Elbs, like it's so razor thin sometimes. Like, it's like, you know who that actor is, you know who the right person is, you just mispronounced their name. Yeah. So it's a really it's a tough thing to figure out, to be honest with you. Yeah. For me, I think it has to go case by case judgment. Like, do the judges think, at the end of the day, did I know who the actor was and who was starring in that movie? Yes. I just didn't know his name. I didn't pronounce his name correctly.
That's again, I am not the world's strongest speller. To Martin Short in the old SNL sketch, I'm not the strongest swimmer. I'm not a strong speller. So if I was to, I understand some of the people getting upset if they've like, hey, the answer is Billy D. Williams, but I didn't put a second E on the, and you're going to call me on that or challenge the question. I can understand when some of them come in. Anyway, it's just fascinating because you and I were there kind of at the very beginning. Actually, you and Christian Ruvacaba kind of got the balls rolling on that. I know, again, harder for you to compete, maybe remotely if they do some matches. What do you miss most about just regularly being part of the movie Trivia Schmodown?
I mean, obviously just the people, seeing everybody on those matches. Because in LA, everyone's doing their own thing. Everyone has their own jobs. Everyone's got to be certain places. And to able to get that many people, that creative in one room, it's just great to get around everybody and see everybody and be able to, kind of have a little reunion every couple weeks and just catch up everybody. And then obviously I'm a very competitive person. I think the reason I love sports is because I love competitiveness. I love rooting for my team. I love my team loses. I hate when my team loses. I love my team wins. And for me and Jeff to be called the Patriots, it was like, I was just so proud to like represent my hometown and my team with such a great record, such a great run. So for me, I'm competitive. I'm a very good person, but I want to win every time I do anything. So for me, I missed that. I've been playing basketball for years, and part of the reason I played basketball was because I liked competing. I liked playing people and winning and hitting the game-winning shot. Sometimes I'd miss the game-winning shot, but I just love competing. And this was literally competing in something that I'm much better at than basketball, that being movies. It's something like I trained my whole life for that I didn't know I was training for. The competitive fire strong. I'm a competitive person too. I just
I take losses differently than others, so I'm never here to judge anyone else on their losses there. But I'll tell you right now, though, my favorite Schmodown thing ever, the best thing I think I ever saw was the 30 for 30 documentary on your story. That's the peak Schmodown. That was to me what I loved about it, because we're talking about a serious competition, talking about something the results aren't fixed, we got it, but the way you played that character, the way that was shot by the Wangers and Christian Rivacaba leading the way with Cody Hall there. I mean, it's still my favorite thing produced out of the Schmodown.
I love just the vibe we had going on with that. I love the tone. It was fun. I saw the latest one, the 30 for 30 with John Roca, and I liked it. It was very much more serious than mine, and I wish they would have had a little more fun with it. I wish they would have had a little more, I don't know, but I get why they did that. The game has changed a lot from when I did that 30 for 30 to what Roca did, but I had so much fun shooting that thing. We laughed so much behind the scenes, and I think it's still a fun watch. Even if you don't know a lot about the Schmodown, I think you still watch that and have a good time. I
absolutely agree. Look, and this isn't casting aspersions on what's come after. And it's a different team that did the Roca one. They were going to do a Roca one initially, and it started going a different direction. But that was for me when it kind of changed. Where I'm like, JTE in a Patriots poncho playing a character. That's the documentary I want to watch versus the real competitions and everything. Which again, all the people love, and I've said on Roca's show last night. I want to see the Schmodown inside Madison Square Garden. I want it to go to the biggest, the toppermost of the poppermost. But for me, I miss some of those early days where just Tricenta Seratora Tops poncho. Some good memories for me.
30 for 30. It leaned into the more ridiculous WWE style of things at times, I think.
Yeah. In closing here, thank you for catching up with me, JT. One of the things I think the last time we talked, we did one of your YouTube show retro review on the Force Awakens trailer, which was awesome. And by the way, and I shout out to what is it? Is it the Call to Action podcast that hooked you on to StreamYard?
I believe so. Yes.
Back in the day, not too long ago. You're the first person you invited me. I'm going to send you a link to this thing called StreamYard, and it was like January. I was like, dude, I don't know what this is. And I was like, oh God, this makes streaming, it's inexcusable not to. And then the industry's changed now dramatically. We're all at home. We all get, and now everyone's using it. But I always go back to JTE was the first one who taught me how to use it.
You hear that, StreamYard? Send me a code for a free year of StreamYard. Hook a brother up, man.
Yeah. The last time though I did talk to you, you were legitimately excited. You had just sat down to a meal of mac and cheese, and you and I have had these conversations before on air and off, but you are truly a mac and cheese aficionado. And for dinner tonight, I've got a frozen TV dinner mac and cheese waiting for me. It's a glorious, glamorous night over here. Let's talk about your history with mac and cheese. When did this really kick in? When did your life connect with this great food?
It started where I think most people started, with Kraft mac and cheese. I had a pretty good story. I had this babysitter when I was a kid who used to come over, babysit me, and she made Kraft mac and cheese, and it was so good that I don't know what she did differently, but every time my mom would make it afterwards, it wasn't as good. And it got to the point where I told my mom, my mom would get frustrated. She's like, I don't know what I'm doing differently. I was like, I don't know what you're doing either. But whenever the babysitter makes it, it's amazing. Yours is a little runny. It's not got the thickness that I need. It just is missing something.
How old are you when you're doing this? You're like 10, 11?
8 years older. I was young. I needed a babysitter, so I was pretty young. And then I think I said this to you before. I think when you order mac and cheese at a restaurant, it is either great or horrible. There's very few in between. There is a few in there, but I feel like you're going to love it. You're just going to be pretty unsatisfied. So it's really hard for me whenever I order mac and cheese. I actually have to interrogate the waitress a little bit, like, how thick is the cheese? Is it runny? How many cheeses are you using in it? Sometimes I like when they use more than 5 to 6 cheeses. And I will say this, one of my favorite mac and cheese places back in Burbank, California is Wood Ranch. I think Wood Ranch has amazing mac and cheese. I have not found anything here that comes close.
Really? They call it Lauren's mac and cheese. I was going to say, our friend Zach Anderson out there says you're in a great place for mac and cheese, JT. You're saying you haven't found it yet out there in Wisconsin.
I haven't found it. I haven't explored as much as I would like to. I went to this one mac and cheese place, which I sent you a text, I believe, and I was like, I'm at this new mac and cheese place, and it was decent, but not enough for me to ever go back and be like, I need to go get that.
Ooh.
So it's really hard. I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's been a place here where I've really loved their mac and cheese. I really can't say I have.
Wow.
My hometown in Connecticut, there was a place called Supernatural that made homemade white cheddar mac and cheese with the like shells with breading. It was still some of the best. Every time I go home, that's the first place I go to.
Gotta get that. In chat, Christy McGee, we also call her Ball Drop McGee around here. Disappointing mac and cheese is the worst.
It's the worst.
Says I was put off as a kid by school dinner mac and cheese. Awful stuff. But he says I should probably revisit. Let's really get in the weeds because I love mac and cheese, not as much, but like I'm up there. I'm silver medal, you're gold medal, and love of mac and cheese. I have found sometimes that too much is getting some breadcrumbs, maybe some chives or something weird in there. But I think there's a lot of, and I'll even take like a buffalo mac and cheese. But I think a lot of times there's some restaurants that popped up in food courts around the nation here. They're just trying too much with mac and cheese. Do you share my opinion, or are you naturalized mac and cheeses?
I mean, prove to me you could do the simple mac and cheese first. If you just give me your plain mac and cheese and I'm liking it, then I'll try some of your other crazy stuff. But you got to prove to me you can just get the basic thing done first. And I've tried some. I went to a place in LA where they had a roast beef grilled cheese sandwich, and it was pretty damn good. And I was almost like, lose the roast beef and the bread, just give me the mac and cheese.
Right.
I was like, that's all stuff's ruined mac and cheese. Just give me a bowl of your mac and cheese. For me, like I really do feel like when I put my fork in mac and cheese, I don't want the shells to be separate. They need to be stuck together with cheese. And I'm not saying they got to be like it has to be hard, but it just has to be almost. It has to be rich and dense. It has to be thick. I need a thick cheese that will stick together. If I put it in a cup and I put the cup upside down, it should come out in the shape of a cup, and then I have to break it up. It shouldn't just be pouring out.
I agree with you. I agree. Drippy mac and cheese is not what I like here. I think there has to be the right, but too thick. Yeah. Then it's like a cake that has too much frosting and you just start cracking. Kristen McGee follows up. What about fried mac and cheese? This is a key question. Mac and cheese balls. I enjoy, when done right. There's sometimes a bit too much. It's appetizer, like, oh, let's get mac and cheese balls, and then your meal's ruined. But I do like the concept.
Yeah, I love a good fried mac and cheese ball. I can't say I found many that I don't like. Like the fried, the cheese, everything usually works really well together. But it's weird. Like I could eat a bowl of mac and cheese. I don't know if I could eat a bowl of like fried mac and cheese balls. It's a little bit, maybe it's just something about that breading and the fry that makes it a little bit too much. I could eat 2 or 3, but I could eat a whole bowl of good mac and cheese.
That's the thing. Yeah, that's right. And sometimes 2 bowls, and then I'll pay for it. But I do like the 2. Some people in chat are suggesting things for you. Zach comes back, says, look for Noodles and Company, Max, or Great Mac and Cheese. 4 Great Mac and Cheese. Have you gone?
I've been to Noodles and Company. I had their mac and cheese, and I wasn't very impressed.
I'm
sorry. I'm sorry, Zach. I did try one here, and I went there specifically for the mac and cheese. And it wasn't bad. It's not in those things where I'm like, I'm unsatisfied. It was like, that's a decent side, but I would never go out of my way to eat it. Put it that way. Sorry, Zach. Yeah, he can't be trusted. Maybe I don't blame him.
And Eddie
doesn't know great mac and cheese. Maybe he hasn't had it.
Yeah, maybe you have to meet up with Zach and teach him that. Eddie out in New York says, sounds like JT should go to NYC for the Smith's Skillet Fried Mac and Cheese. The Smith's, we had a Throwdown live event after party there, and there's some great food going on there. Eddie's not wrong. I don't remember trying that. I might have been too drunk when I tried it, but I think it's worth a shot.
I will try that. That's the main reason why I will go to New York right now.
PJ Campbell does say the Smith does have great mac and cheese. Well, JT, I don't want to keep it too much longer. You got a lot of stuff doing, a lot of stuff you got going on. Appreciate hanging out with you. I miss you, man. I miss our rides home from the old job. I miss the early days when we were all figuring this out in the Schmoes No Podcast days. So good to see that you're doing well out there, my friend, poncho and all.
You too, man. I love watching your content. I still listen to your podcast. It's great to have. I take my dog for walks 3 times a day now, and I always have your podcast to listen to at least once or twice a week.
That's a lot of pressure, man. That's a lot of pressure. Tell them where they can follow you, and because I know you're working on all this stuff too. You got that green screen and the bricks back there. You're reviewing movies, and you know your stuff. So where can they find you?
So you can find me on YouTube at JTE Movie Thinks. I think the last review I had was for The Invisible Man. My channel's mainly been for reviews. Ever since COVID-19 has taken over the world and taken out theaters, my channel's been kind of sleeping, but I am looking forward to hitting it hard when theaters do open back up and get back into just normal life and normal movie going. Even movie news is slow at this point. We're getting little things here and there, but the industry has come to a halt. And it's great that you guys and Schmoes and ScreenJunkies, all my friends, are still able to put some sort of content out there and just talk about not only movies, but what this means for movies, what we're going through right now. So, check out me on Twitter, JT Movie Thinks, and YouTube, JT Movie Thinks.
Do it. And you know what? Maybe in the meantime, you've got to start ranking and rating mac and cheese. JTE Cheese Thinks. I want it. That is it for this week's edition of the Napzok Files. We're out of here. Thanks for listening live on YouTube or watching, and thanks for listening on the podcast feed. You know where to find me. I did all the issues for tier patron supporters and the audio bonus and on the podcast a little bit. My God, TE, we are out of here.